Good morning. How are you today, guys? You okay? Looks like we have a lot of locations at universities. I've had the pleasure of speaking at many universities, and we kind of took a page out of that. And if you'll check under your chairs, there's a special thing we did for you under all the chairs. It's called petrified gum. Sorry about that. I'm Bob Hammock. I have an advertising company. I've done advertising and public relations for almost 40 years. I've had the pleasure of doing a lot of the PR work for Club 29, and I'll share with you some of the things that I've learned. I would point out that we did this a few weeks ago. That presentation is on the district website, I believe, so I'm going to try to make an effort not to go over old ground. I'll cover new things that I didn't mention in the previous session that might be helpful for your club. The first thing that I would suggest is make a decision to do something. Make a decision to do something. One of my favorite ministers is Robert Schuller, and he famously one time pointed out that starting is half done. Starting is half done. So make a decision that you're going to have a public relations campaign and stick with it. It's never the big splash, by the way, that wears away the mountains. It's the steady drip over a long period of time. So once you commit to do this, don't do it for a couple weeks and then throw your hands up and go, well, it's not working. It takes time to really establish any brand, that would be for a retail client or for a Rotary Club. So starting is half done. Make the decision to have a PR campaign. You might say, no, Bob, there's no one on our staff that really is a PR expert. Okay, I understand that, but there will be somebody on your staff who likes to write. They might have a journalism degree in their background. They might enjoy doing blogs. That's the ideal person to go to and say, we need your journalistic writing ability to help us out. You have to try to communicate to your membership on a regular basis, as well as people who are potential members in the future. One suggestion I'd make is if you come to a dead end and there is a local university or college, they're going to have a J school. And there'll be somebody in that J school that will want to help you. Every college kid knows the importance today of doing an intern. Interns can really supplement your staff. They'll do it to put on their resume. Interns, in my advertising agency, we've had many, many interns. The best one was the one I married, so I'm a big fan of interns, you might say. I thought by marrying this person I'd save some money, but I can tell you in the long term, after 3 kids, it didn't really save me much money. So you find somebody who's a good writer and wants to undertake the challenge. One of the things that I would point out is whenever possible, use video, just like we're doing right now. Put video on your website, use video for emails. Anytime you do an event, take video. All you have to do is have this little marvelous device right here. It'll take videos for you and post those onto your website. We have a PR guy who's excellent in social media. I'm sure he'll touch on this later on, won't you?
Absolutely.
But you want to put video as much as possible, that content on your website. Showcase your successes. Now what does that mean? When your club does something in note, let the world know about it. There's an old poem that goes something like this. It says, the codfish, which is a little tiny fish, lays 10,000 eggs a day. But the codfish never crows to tell the world what she's done. The lowly hen only does 1 egg a day, and yet they crow to tell the world what they've done. So I guess the adage is it always pays to advertise, right? So you got to let people know what you're doing. Find that one thing that you've done this week or last week and make that into a story. The membership of your club, by the way, is a great pool of stories. Every member of your club has some story inside them, some experience that they've had as a Rotarian or even not as a Rotarian that would be of interest to your club. So look for those stories. I went to Italy a few years ago and I broke my ankle on a Vespa accident. So I came back and wrote a story which we published in our club's newsletter. I called it, I went to Italy and got plastered. And I had so many people come up and say that they laughed and enjoyed my story. Everybody has a story. So when you're saying, well, nothing happened in our club this week. Something happened in the lives of one of your members. So talk about your members. They're the heart and soul of every single club. And I can assure you, if you'll talk about one of their stories and their friends will read it, it'll be very good for you. Sometimes it's also very helpful, I mentioned this in the last video conference, find someone in the media in your local community and invite them to be a member. It's really, really helpful to have a member of the media on your staff. And let me also give you a little insight into how media works. If you have a local radio station or a local newspaper, and almost every community does, every week they have to fill X amount of space. Every week they have to fill X amount of airtime. They are looking for something to talk about. So don't think that when you send a press release to the local newspaper or you call the local radio station that they're going to be bored with whatever you have to say. They are looking for stories. So anytime you have a speaker, be sure and alert the media, tell them what the speaker will be talking about. They may want to come and do a story on it, or sometimes even cover it live. Now, when you send out information, I think it's also very important. Remember, don't make your headlines bland. Don't be bland. You know, ask yourself, what can I say that will make somebody want to read what is the content of this press release? And generally speaking, that's an emotional issue. Come up with some emotional aspect. We had a speaker this week that Rotary that was just terrific. He talked about how they have been able to identify some of the markers early on that can identify kids who are having all kinds of emotional issues later on in life. There's not a parent in that room that wasn't really riveted to what this guy had to say. So if you just said, hey, we're going to talk about kids, that probably wouldn't have done it. But they smartly said, here's a man that can help you steer your kids into a lifelong of making good decisions. So look for the emotional story that you can billboard. Speaking of billboards, I mentioned this last time too. There are lots of ways to publicize your club that don't cost you really not much money at all. One is billboard companies are famous for leasing a billboard for 6 months, and a year later the same message is up. You probably have seen those in your community. One day I'm driving down Northwest 39th Oklahoma City, and there's an outdoor board promoting the Ice Capades, which had been gone for 3 or 4 months. So right behind that billboard was the YWCA. And I had the pleasure of working with a lot of nonprofits. The YWCA is one of my favorites. So I called the executive director and said, hey, I think I've got something going here. It may cost you a few $100s, but you'll really come out ahead. So I called Lamar, which was the company that owned the billboard, and said, you got this dead billboard. It's promoting an event that's over. How about donating that space to a nonprofit? They said, well, sure. And the only cost was to repaper the board, which I think was $400 or $500. So the YMCA got a board that normally would cost $1,800 a month. It was up for 4 or 5 months for really pennies on the deal. So look at your local outdoor board companies. If you see a message that's dated, call them up and say, hey, we want to talk about what's happening at Rotary. And they will absolutely do it because they don't want to have a board up that's outdated either. Another thing you can do, that I mentioned in the last meeting, which a lot of people don't think about, use your memberships, particularly those who advertise, as a way of getting your message out. There was a car dealer in Oklahoma City for many years, Smickless Chevrolet. And the last 5 or 6 seconds of every TV commercial, they said, please spay and neuter your animals. Brought to you by whatever. Well, I would submit to you, if you haven't sold that viewer's attention in the first 25 seconds, those last 5 seconds don't matter much. So go to the membership of your club, say you advertise a lot, can we shirt tail on your media time or your print time? They're, the ones who are members will always say yes. If they're not a member, still go to them because they don't want to have a message that's up that's dated as well. It's important to never be complacent. Don't say, okay, we're doing a great job. That's about the time things go south. They say if you're coasting, you're probably going downhill. So get this person who's going to be your advocate, that's going to be your journalistic person, and remind them every week we got to come up with a story. Every week we got to come up with an angle. I helped a club one time that I won't mention their name. They were a small community, and they were struggling like a lot of clubs are. But they did have a Kiwanis club. Now you know what Kiwanis is. That's Rotary Light. We all can agree on that. But we challenged them to a fundraiser to help build a local park. So you really had the power of 2 clubs working in one, which was amazing. Both clubs got lots of publicity. So think out of the box sometimes. Don't view other clubs who also have a mission of helping humanity as competitors. Work with them sometimes. You get a lot more power out of it when you do that. Here's what's on my list here, things to do. dead air is the dead air is the bane of
We need
all
to play
media.
some music or something.
All singers song. No, the last couple of things I would say is, don't view your club as a silo. By that, what I mean is every Rotary club, and I think I've spoken to 18 different clubs in Central Oklahoma, basically have the same problems. You have an aging membership many times, that's a problem. You have low attendance, sometimes that's a problem, obviously. So use other clubs as a source of leads. Call them up and say, what are you doing that's going to help our club? So learn from what other clubs do. Every Rotarian is going to help you. So find a club that's about your size, that has the same problems, and call and say, hey, what are you guys doing? And learn from other people. Don't feel like you have to invent the wheel. So in closing, I would say that the main thing is make a decision you're going to do something. That seems obvious. A lot of people sit around and they form a committee and they don't do anything. Committees are where good ideas go to die, by the way. So come up with one person who can be the lead pony, who will really take this to heart and put a lot of energy into it, and try to give them help, like get an intern from a local college or other people. Look for the story. And I'll close with one little pet peeve I have. I think that Rotary clubs, in particular, all clubs of our ilk, they put a sign up that says, I was in Hugo, Oklahoma, and they have a Rotary club. And it had the typical Rotary club meets on Tuesday. Make it a big splash. Get excited about what you do. Do a sign that says, hey, we're Rotary. This is what we've done in our community. If you don't tell your story, nobody will. So get excited about the things you do. What you do is important. You help kids, you help families, you help the human condition. Don't make it a secret. Don't be bashful about telling your story. And look for ways to promote your club. That will assure you a healthy future. If you don't do those things, then your club will slowly melt down to much smaller than it is today. Nobody wants that. So get excited about what you do. Come up with some success stories and promote the heck out of them. My company will be listed on the website for the district if you have any questions, and I can help you out in any way. I've had the great honor of being the Rotary Club 29 Member of the Year. I've also won a Governor's Award for public relations work that I've done for different clubs. So don't hesitate to call me. I'm in the emeritus years, which means basically I don't have any clients. So call me, and if I can help you out, I'd love to do so. You're out.
Bob Hammock, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Some familiar faces in the crowd today. My name is Mike Kaler. I'm the founder of a digital marketing company called Smirk New Media in Oklahoma City, and I am a very proud member of Midtown Rotary. I'm going to talk to you today about the internet and social media and digital marketing, and how, just spinning off of what Bob said, we can use all of the things, great things that we do in our communities to spread the message even broader and tell people how great the Rotary movement is and why they would want to come and be a member of our clubs. But I'm going to spare you the looking at my face the whole time and show you some slides. All right. So everything I'm going to tell you about is subject to change because of this guy. This is Mark Zuckerberg. He runs Facebook. I have a picture of him printed out above my desk, and every day I punch it in the face because he changes the rules all the time. In January 2018, Facebook changed the rules pretty radically about what gets seen by the public from pages that belong to brands and organizations and companies. So we've really been, myself and my people who work for me have really been digging in to see what works and doesn't work in this new environment. And the fortunate thing for us Rotarians is that it looks to us that organizations that people are very passionate about, so nonprofits, churches, and service organizations like us haven't been affected as much by the change in the algorithm as just straight businesses. So this is what you need to do and to be successful on social media these days is a little bit different than it has been, because it's not just about the message and the content you're putting out, but it's about the engagement with people who ask you questions, who comment on your posts and things like that really makes a difference. So the more you can make your different social media platforms an outpost, we call them, your embassies across the web. The more you can interact with the people who see what you put out, the better it's going to be for you. So this is the Midtown Rotary page. We just had our big successful fundraiser of the year, Spelling Beer, downtown, and did a ton of promotion on social media for that, with original artwork generated from our one of our members, to the sort of a constant drumbeat of updates, inviting people to come to the event. We listed it as a separate event on Facebook, so people could RSVP there. And then we did promotion on the other platforms as well. A lot of stuff on Instagram, because what the people in our club understand about the different platforms is that different demographics live on different platforms. There's just a new report that came out in the 1st of February about what the demographics are for each platform. And depending on who you're looking for as a member will should dictate, where you're most active as a club. So Facebook, for instance, is sort of the most ubiquitous platform right now. It has the highest percentage, 80% of the people who use the internet are on Facebook. It skews now a little bit older and a little bit more female, so women 30 to 50 are now a driving force on Facebook, as opposed to Instagram, which is also majority female, but much in the younger demographic. So that goes about age 20 to, or 15 to 30 is on Instagram. And then you look at a platform like LinkedIn, which is much older, 30 plus, much more male, and much more higher income. So if you're, for instance, Club 29, LinkedIn is a good place for you all, as opposed to our demographic that we get in Midtown is a little bit younger, and it has a little bit of a different profile. So the platforms you want to be active on really depends on what a member looks like to you. We want to, our member looks much more a white collar professional, male and older. Then you're gonna change the way you're gonna change what you invest your time in. Like Bob was saying, video is now the coin of the realm a little bit in terms of the best kind of content that gets the best kind of engagement. And it's also the kind of content that the platforms are most eager for. Going back to Zuckerberg, Facebook now wants to be very competitive with YouTube. So they are so eager for people to upload video content to Facebook that they're really giving that an extra boost in terms of being seen. So if you post video content as opposed to just a written post, or opposed to a post with just a still image, it's going to get more exposure to more people outside of just the people who like your page, because it's a video. And the other thing about a video is that more and more people online have become accustomed to being shown what a brand is all about, rather than having to read about that. And the great thing about what we do, what Rotary does, is we, walk the walk of the action of what our values are. We're doing service projects every month. We're having meetings every month. There's so much potential content in all of that we would never run out of it if you commit to really putting it online on a regular basis. So what we train people to do, what we train our clients to do, is to really flip a switch in their head and see all of their activity and all of the things that go into making them unique, have a digital component to that. So you have a meeting every week, you have a guest speaker, or you have members of your clubs doing extraordinary things of their own right, all of that is, to me, is potential content. And it's just a matter of flipping that switch and understanding that we don't have to, none of these things have to be a secret anymore. If you hear a great speaker at your meeting and you rush home and you tell your wife, oh, we had this great speaker and he said this interesting thing and this interesting thing and this interesting thing, that should set off an alarm in your head that this is something that we could promote as our club. If you become a member, you're going to see speakers who share this sort of interesting information. All of that then is potential content. So I would, just like Bob said, I would video as much as you can. If you're delivering a grant, if you're doing a service project, if you're having a meeting, take that phone out, talk to your speaker, do 30 extra seconds with your speaker, show your Rotary members in action doing their service project. The bar is low in terms of production. I think some people sort of get hung up on the idea of, a video that we take on our phone is just not good enough, when in fact that the audience expectation for video production is a very low bar. That if you have just a regular iPhone now, you're taking HD quality video that's better than what TV stations and high-end video production houses were doing 10 or 15 years ago. So video everything you can, and then what you want to do is you want to use and reuse that as often as possible in as many places as possible. That's what we call, in our business, we call that spreading the peanut butter. So let's say, for instance, you have a service project. Well, while you're out there, if you take video of people, your club members doing it, you take a short video just talking to somebody about, hey, what are we doing today? And have the person who's in charge of your service projects just explain, we're out here today, volunteering, like Midtown was just last night volunteering at an art event in Oklahoma City. So if you have video of them in action, you have video of somebody talking about what it is, you take some still photos with that as well, that's enough content to spread out over a week. And if you do an email newsletter, that's something that you could add to that through email. It's something that you can post then on your website. It's something you can then share with Hal that can be shared in what the district communications are. It's all about not being satisfied with just one piece of content is just one post on one day, but how can we spread that out to hit as many audiences as we can and in many different places as we can. All right, so let's talk about money. Again, back to Zuckerberg. One of the reasons they've tweaked the algorithm to change what people see and when they see it is because they're in the business of making money. This guy isn't a billionaire for no reason. So promoting posts have value if you want to reach a bigger audience, especially when it comes to events that help you fundraise. Your golf tournament, your whatever it is that you do as your big fundraiser every year. But the good thing about social media is that money it's really well spent money because you can target who you want the audience to be. It will show you exact metrics in terms of who sees the messages that you're putting out and whether that's effective. And that way there's really no misspent dollars in terms of social media promotion and advertising. So if you say, we have an event coming up and we want to use it to recruit new people to our club, the people in our club are 30 to 45-year-old men who live in such and such zip code, then you can spend your money on exactly that audience on Facebook and on Instagram and on Twitter, where you can create an audience, put $100 towards it, and you know that all $100 worth of that promotion is going to go only to those people that you selected in in that target audience. So I think, I'm super biased because this sort of stuff puts a roof over my head. But in terms of effectiveness and transparency of what you're spending your money on, as opposed to some of the traditional media, you know that it's bound to be effective, and you can get reporting on this every day, so you can tweak the messages that you want to, and make it work for you fluidly. So. The other thing that we're recommending that everybody do, if you're an organization and you want to have impact in your community and you want to find opportunities to put yourselves inside of the conversations that are going on, is to really use social media as just a listening tool. If you leave today and you're like, that guy's a crackpot, I don't want to get into that social media thing, we don't want to put any content out as a club, the least you can do is use it as a listening tool. And that way you set up some accounts for your club, you don't put anything out, but you're listening to what your community is talking about. You're listening to, especially in the spaces that you're invested in, like Midtown, we're focused on arts and arts education. So we could just use social media to listen to those organizations who are in that space, what their needs are, what events they have coming up, what people are talking about, and in that we can develop the voice of the brand and know that every time we respond to somebody that we're listening to, that we're doing it consistently, no matter who's putting out content for the organization. I just wanted to plug a couple things here that I think are great opportunities for our organizations to get involved with. One is a new website made in Oklahoma City that's called madepossibleby.us. It is a site that has become a clearinghouse for organizations to put up a profile page, so anybody looking to donate to a nonprofit or to see what a nonprofit is active in, this profile page will do that. It's also doing it for businesses. So on the flip side of things, when we're looking for a business that will donate to us or is also of the same mind in terms of what they're involved in, we can look here. So it's madepossibleby.us, and what it does is it gives everyone a profile page. This is a business in Automobile Alley in Oklahoma City. It gives businesses and organizations a place where they can describe who they are, but then it is also a place where you can talk about, in terms of giving back to the community, what you are involved in, what events that you put on, what your giving looks like if you're a corporate person. And that way, if somebody's looking to say, I want to look for a sponsorship from a company that is involved in foster children, for instance, you can look up on this site, look up the issue, foster children, and it would bring up all of the companies that are passionate about that issue, what they do in terms of sponsorship, etc. So in our case, we could make a page on this site and tag ourselves as being interested in arts education, and people looking for companies or organizations who are passionate about that issue, it would come out. So I would encourage everyone to take a look at that. It's a way to tell your story. It doesn't have any ads on it. It doesn't have any other things that muck up a page. It just is a straight place where you can have another outpost for your organization. Last thing I'll say is don't use Snapchat, because it's terrible. A lot of people now are, when they get the social media bug in their heads, they want to try every platform no matter who the audience is and no matter how effective it is. And Snapchat's sort of the worst of these now. Again, a new demographic study came out. This is after Facebook, the second most popular with young people. So if you are if you're trying to recruit Rotarians that are 12 to 15-year-old girls, then have at it. But otherwise, there's really no reason for anybody to be on Snapchat, business or organization-wise. Questions? So Bob and I will hang out here and
Bob, you had something you wanted to
Yeah,
add
okay,
here.
thanks.
answer some questions and stuff too.
Yeah, a couple of things that Mike said I want to just sort of underscore. Obviously, video so important. Don't worry about the quality. It doesn't matter how crummy it is. And frankly, if you've been to any Kevin Costner movie lately, you've seen how low the standards have become in the industry. The other thing Mike mentioned was after a Rotary meeting, go home and tell your wife. Well, that's the difference between his club, my club. You can go home and tell your husband.
I
Just,
that's
said I had to gig you on that. Third thing is that I've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of people who proclaim that they're a social media expert. Very few are. My friend across the table is terrific. I now have had the pleasure of hearing him speak twice. If you have a question about social media, call Mike. He is truly an expert and somebody who's very respected. And give him a call. I'm sure he'll be happy to field any phone calls that you have. But he's really distinguished himself these last two meetings with the broad knowledge that he brings to the table. So that's it. Mike, you anything else?
No, I'm happy to take questions. I can talk about this all day, so buckle up.
Yeah, we still got quite a bit of time, so.
Can we hear them today ask questions?
There's somebody up there.
Yes, sir.
With regards to the videos, how long should they be? Seconds, minutes, and how many?
We're usually looking in terms of being effective online about a minute and a half. So it can be as short as 30. It can be as long as I would say if you're getting much longer than 2 or 3 minutes, then you could break it up. You can always shoot a long video and then break it up. I would do that before I would put a 5 or 6 or 7 minute video online. I would make that a couple of 2-minute videos.
Yeah, I would add to that. I think about a minute. I mean, you can say what you need to say in about a minute. The other thing is when you do videos for your club, try to keep those in the range of 6 or 7 minutes. Most of the research shows that after 6 or 7 minutes, the audience attention begins to wane. So when you're doing something, talking about an activity that you've done, keep 6, 7 minutes in mind is a pretty good length.
The other thing I would say to that, and I failed to mention this, but the other thing, if you're wanting to go long, I would look at doing live videos from meetings, from volunteering events, from service projects. Facebook loves video, and now it super loves live video. And if you're at a service project and you're doing something really cool, if you're packing boxes at the food bank, if you're painting. One time we painted a map of the United States on a playground at elementary school. If you're doing something cool like that, then I wouldn't be afraid to go ahead and shoot it live. Facebook will retain that video, and then you can cut it up and repost it anytime, and that'll be seen by a lot of your audience.
When you do community service videos, I think it's really important to let the people that you're helping be who you put on camera. So really limit the number of members making comments and focus on the demographic, the group of people that you're helping. Let them tell a very emotional story, and that'll have a far greater impact than just one of your talking heads from your club.
Definitely.
More hands?
Anybody else? Everybody's figured it out now. They're going easy on
They
us.
have.
There's a question.
There's a question right there, next door. Yes, sir.
I saw you raise your hand.
No?
Nope. William McGlynn?
suggestions as to how to make the picture more compelling? Or is that as compelling as a local paper is going to get?
Is that, so I was in the newspaper business before I started this internet hoo-ha. Is that a deal where they're running those all on the same day, or is that just...
Every day there's a different one.
Oh, okay. You know, I think...
Kids getting an award,
Sure.
etc.
Well, I think they're putting out what they're getting. You know, so if you... But what's going on has to be compelling to them. So if they're going to run those photos, but if you take a photo when you're if of your speaker talking, or if you take a photo of your service project of people actually doing something, newspapers prefer photos of people doing things rather than sort of the criminal lineup photos that people shoot a lot of times. So I think they take what they get and they do that. It's up to it's up to us to find things that are more compelling that either they can come out and shoot, or that we can shoot and then provide to them.
Really, what Mike's saying is don't let them be statues. I think that's what a lot of photographers, though, because of their time, they just want to run in and take a quick snapshot of the president handing somebody an award or something. And it's really important, I think, make sure what the backdrop is in those photographs, because if they are showing the other clubs, you absolutely want to make sure that the Rotary wheel is somewhere very prominent in that photograph.
Sure.
Research will also show that the most compelling thing that you can do on television and or in print is the human face. So tell the photographer you'd rather show the face of the person who's winning the award or the focus of the meeting rather than all three. Anything else?
We must have filled them with great knowledge.
Look at it. They're so enthused.
They're numb.
They cannot
with
wait to
everything
get back
that
to their
they've
club
learned.
on Monday and say, you will not believe what we learned.
I think
So-
so.
Well, let me close by also complimenting my friend Mike. You probably, I don't know if you knew him earlier, he was telling me this morning he lost 20 pounds. I'm really proud of Mike. Of course,
I tell people that every morning.
Of course, what happened was he just lost his dog.
All right, well, we thank you so much for being here. Like Bob said, we'll put our slides online and our presentation and this video. If you're on social media, if you want to find me, my handle on everything is MKOKC, and then my company's called Smirk New Media, and we're happy to help out.
Best to call you after 10 o'clock at night, would you say?
Pretty, yeah.
Okay.
On the weekends and at night.
Edmund has a question.
Great.
Edmund has a question. They're tired of jokes. Yes, sir.
I was just wondering, I do a lot of outreach where I work, but I'm involved with the Rotary, I'm involved with other organizations. If I'm out doing something, because I'm a Rotary member, is it okay to plug in the Rotary logo with what I do? Because I'm public relations with my job, and I have to brand a lot of different markets. And I'm plugging in since I'm a Rotary and I'm out doing this, or does it have to be specifically for Rotary doing?
That's a good. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think that's more, to me personally, that's more about your personal brand than it is necessarily about the Rotary brand. But you can, in how you describe it, you can describe yourself as a member of such and such club and tag that club. I don't ever see anything wrong with people tagging the club in on things, because that is going to raise the visibility and give people an opportunity to link back to the club's page.
Basically, Rotary's a brand, by the way. Just like Sonic at McDonald's. Rotary's a brand. And I would submit to you, any way that you can get the brand in front of the public is probably a good idea. And so if you got 18 people in your club or 20 people in your club, well, I wish they'd all be wearing Rotary shirts. I wish they'd all have bumper stickers. I mean, the exposure is nothing but helpful. So any way you can work in Rotary, I suggest you should do that. And you know, also, there's a lot of colleges that now have, is it Rotaract clubs?
Rotaract,
Yeah, Rotaract clubs. That's really the future of Rotary. You know, Mike's talking about his club and beer. My clubs we know we're basically wine. We've got grown the beer players, but we need young blood. And so, if there is a local college, start a chapter. You know, get these kids engaged early. You know, most of the younger generation, they have a pretty strong commitment to making the world a better place. The OU club, I think, has 30 or 40 members. They got them by going around campus and writing messages in chalk on the sidewalk when the meetings were. That was their form of social media. And they do public service jobs, and so they're learning early the importance of giving back. So, you know, don't just think of your club as, you know, got a fence around it. Get out and be an evangelist for Rotary. I mean, go to those colleges, go to high schools. You know, the Wings program is coming up where we have students from Japan that will be touring Oklahoma as part of the long-standing exchange program, and we send kids to Japan. About a dozen kids, not quite a dozen, about 10. You know, those are all high school kids. And when they, I got a kid from John Marshall here in Oklahoma City to be part of this year's Outward Bound group. This girl comes from abject poverty, as do most public school kids in Oklahoma City. And the chance to travel abroad is very unique for anyone in her family. So she's going to come back to John Marshall High School, which is a really good, upcoming, mostly African-American school. Again, very, very much below poverty. But she's going to have some stories to tell about what she experienced when she was in Japan. This is extraordinary. This is a life-changing event, not just for her, but hopefully it'll rub off on some of the other students. You know, there's a big world out there, and if all of us can just give back a little bit, you know, it'll make a huge difference. So get engaged in your community. I know you guys do, but get involved with college and even high school. You can't start too soon, and promote Rotary. If you don't promote Rotary, eventually it'll go away. And if you don't think things change, here's the statistic for you. Every day in America, a golf course closes. Now think about that. Golf, when Tiger Woods is playing, everybody's all big on. Every day in America, a golf course changes. So if you don't think the world's changing, they say by 2020, all the major car dealers are going to be making electric cars. By 2030, you won't own a car. You'll call a number, the car will come to your front door and pick you up and take you to your business. I would not want to be in the auto insurance business much longer because all the deaths and all the accidents are going to go away with that. The world is changing. So you can either say, well, I'm going to be part of that change, or I'm going to embrace that change. We're going to help our club change. We're going to reach out and start getting young people, people of color and women engaged. Or you can sit back and watch your club wither and divine. Be proactive, be committed, be passionate about what you do. We are Rotarians. We help to cure polio. Think about that. Polio almost eradicated because of what? People in your room, all the people in this room. We helped solve one of the great scourges of the world. We can do anything when we work together. So that's my plea. Get out and do something.